Hello everybody and welcome back to the Healthy Orange Movie Reviews. I'm your host, Bennett Campbell Ferguson, and I'm joined today by Maxwell Meyers, Alli, Patrick Belin, and Shaunette. We're gathered here today to talk about Batman versus Superman. I found out, as I was talking with Max earlier, that even though my first question presumes that we all hated it, I know you found some positive things, so I wanna let you have the floor on that.
Okay, so I'm going to start.
Explain.
Okay, everyone.
Spotlights.
I did not like this movie. I'm going to say that right now, and I have a feeling everyone this direction is going to echo that times 10 at least. But when you realize that, you also have to be like, are we all going to literally just sit around for the next hour and shit on a movie?
That's
Which
we professionally bitch.
Yes, I know I just said we are professional movie bitchers, but this is my point, is that I have to stress is that much like how Star Wars was a great Star Wars film, but just a pretty good just overall film, Batman is not the worst movie. Batman v Superman is not the worst movie I've ever seen. I've had way worse movie watching experiences, and this movie does have some merits. In fact, I thought it was better than Superman.
What do you think those the strongest elements are?
Strongest elements. That's where we get tricky. I think it did better than its last movie.
What were the least bad elements?
Okay, that's a good way to phrase it.
The least bad elements. I think Patrick earlier said it was the least Zack Snyder-y film. So whether he was forced to or not, he broke his pattern, which is nice. So
you raise a good point, Max. I mean, I hate this movie, and I wouldn't be surprised if it turned out to be my least favorite film of the year. But it's not the worst movie ever made, and I admit, I often, disagree with, my fellow movie lovers, and so when I agree with them, I get caught up in it, and so in this case, I've probably bashed this movie a little harder than it deserves. Not much harder.
It deserves its bashing but for different reasons, in my opinion.
Well, let's get a little deeper into that.
Yeah.
I mean, my question for all of you is, we do agree that there's a lot of things that don't work, to put it rather kindly, and
the kindest way you could probably put it.
Yeah. Well, we've
improvement.
We've talked about how this movie fails as a comic book adaptation, but what about purely as a movie, purely as a work of art? I want to hear from all of you, starting with you, Mo, about what. Is there a moment where you feel like the craft, either the acting, directing, writing, or visuals are particularly wrong?
The piss jar scene.
Yes.
I keep coming back to that because it's just in theory and in execution, it fails on both levels. So in theory, you are hanging a tense, dramatic, edge of your seats, kind of like thriller type scene on a jar of piss. It's a
This is going in our YouTube tags. Intense dramatic jar of piss.
We saw it together, Alli, Ben, and I. We saw this together, and when you get to that scene, you get like a brief shot where that's in frame. Everyone laughed because it's a jar of piss. Because that's funny. Like, it's juvenile, but it's funny.
Well, and it's juvenile in that it fits with Lex Luthor's character up to that point. It seems like the perfect kind of screw you move from him, but then it lasted for way too long.
It lasts for way too long. It suddenly becomes like tense and dramatic, and you don't realize that it's supposed to be tense and dramatic. It just seems like Holly Hunter forgot her line.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Well, I thought, did she drink it? Because she looks like she's choking.
That's what I thought.
Is she poisoned? What's going on?
And it doesn't mesh up with her character, because up to that point, she's this character who, doesn't take any shit from anybody, so it's like you would think,
she's not staying with Lex Luthor.
Yeah, it's like she sees it takes her off her guard, she remembers the conversation, but you would think that then she would continue on with what she was doing.
Sure.
Instead of sit there shaking in fear for the next 30 seconds.
Of a jar of piss.
I did think that too. It was like, she didn't know what was coming. It's not like she saw the jar of piss and was like, oh, there's a bomb in the room.
Yeah, it's like it didn't make sense for it to go as far as it did. But I'm sorry. And
then we know so little about Lex Luthor at this point. We know he's an obnoxious douche who's on the verge of a nervous breakdown. And like, so we don't know what him sending someone a jar of piss means. Is that a threat? Is that an insult? Is that him being goofy and weird? Because earlier in a scene he force-fed a senator a Jolly Rancher for no fucking reason. Like, we don't know what we're supposed to feel, and the movie doesn't do a good job of... It tells us how we're supposed to feel, but it doesn't support that argument.
Yeah, well, you'll get no argument with me, but Patrick, from you'll get no argument from me. I hate that scene. Sorry about that. But Patrick, what about you? Is there a scene that you felt went particularly wrong?
A particular scene that really... Okay, so here we're gonna spend, what is it, like an hour and a half or whatever it is into the movie, like, okay, Batman vs. Superman, Batman vs. Superman. The movie ends abruptly, and it turns into Justice League because somebody said Martha. It's like,
that's his trigger word.
Yeah, like, okay, so what is this, like an elaborate S&M scene, and like the Martha is the safe word?
50 Shades of Batman.
Yes. So I think the biggest scene for me that I didn't like was the scene with Lois Lane and the spear, just because it doesn't make any sense.
No.
It starts out, first off, it doesn't make any sense. She like throws a spear into a deep well. Like,
I get
here's a
that
weapon that looks dangerous. Let me throw it down somewhere.
That's part I sort of
no
get.
one will ever find. So then she suddenly decides, I should go get the spear back.
I've
No
made a huge
explanation.
mistake.
I've made a huge
Right,
mistake.
right.
I'm gonna
How
back
she
out and get
knows that the
spear.
spear is important for some reason.
Exactly. So you're sitting there and you're thinking, wow, like, this is great. This female character is going to do something and not get beat up. Like, she's actually going to be important.
Like, trying to do something.
Yeah. And no. Then she starts drowning. So the only reason that she went in to get the spear. So, okay, let me rewind. The only reason that Zack Snyder thought, oh, I'm going to have Lois Lane do something interesting is so that she can drown and distract Superman from a fight again so that he can come rescue her.
Yes,
like, oh,
yes.
Lois, you tried.
Save
You
me,
tried so
Superman.
hard. You tried so hard.
I was never the strongest swimmer.
Let the men take it from here, Lois. You
I don't know, maybe you
just
should be in
sit
this
down
movie, Max.
and you just
Pulitzer
say,
Prize-winning journalist
I'll get the
exists to be
spear.
saved.
I should have
Don't
taken off
worry.
my clothes. They get wet and they get heavy. It's just,
yes,
Why were they
it was
having
just like,
Hollywood
oh,
could have got better.
here's a chance for her to do something important, and no, we're just going to use it to show again that she needs Superman to rescue her. But everybody knows that Superman's going to rescue her because we've already seen him do it how many times by this
Well, 3
point?
times in this movie alone.
Yes, yes. It undermines her entire character if they just set her up as, well, she's this like great, brave journalist who goes and gets all these stories, but she only goes out and gets those stories in the first place because she knows if she gets in trouble, Superman will come save her. It's like it completely undermines her entire like personality.
Max, what about you? Is there a scene you'd like to cite for particular failure of the vision?
The Batman CrossFit sequence.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
The weird
The
weightlifting with
Wow.
that was bad. That was
Why is he
bad.
That's
Batman
CrossFit.
tired.
I was watching and I was like, wait, is this an ad for CrossFit? Are we gonna defeat Superman with CrossFit? You're worse than those guys at the bar. I was like, I was like, wow, it's impressive that Ben Affleck can do the chin-ups with the weights dangling from him. I thought that was impressive, but at the
That
same
was
time, I was like,
impressive.
this
I
is a
didn't hear
weird
it from you.
montage.
It's very weird.
That is impressive, but I'm not here to see Ben Affleck get beefy.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean,
It
I
was
was
already
beefier.
yeah, I mean, I just thought it was like, and he's like, all right, I gotta get ready to defeat Superman. Time to hit a tire with a sledgehammer.
Because I guess this is a
Time
fucking
to run
Rocky
across.
movie now.
Yeah, I was like, that was like the Rocky montage, and I was like, I just didn't need that. I was like, I was like, apparently that was it. I mean, it wasn't just like, it was a specific type of exercise that I've just noticed around. I was like, this
Sure.
is CrossFit. Why are we watching this right now?
So do you feel like there was like kind of the absurdity of having that kind of thing in the midst of the super movie? Was that distracting? Like
It took
take
me,
you out of
for
the
some
dream?
reason, it took me out of the moment. I was like, this is it? This is what we're doing? Like, I get it's supposed to look like at home, but at the same time, I was like, I've seen like 50 people do this like through a window before. I was like, this isn't that impressive, and that's apparently how we're gonna defeat Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hammers.
Hammer.
the scene in some ways that I hate the most is the scene where Superman goes to talk to Martha, and she's giving this whole speech about people hate what they don't understand. And what I hate about that moment is that it cuts right into the middle of her philosophical lecture. There's no build-up, there's no explanation of why he even went to visit her, and it made me think of a better scene in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, where Peter Parker goes to talk to Aunt May, and she lectures him as well. But the scene starts out in this very kind of recognizable human way with them talking about the fact that Aunt May's moving, and what did she do with Peter's comic books, and all this very down-to-earth human stuff. Whereas you get Zack Snyder, he does a similar scene. He doesn't bother with the human stuff. He doesn't bother with the setup or anything graceful. He has a lecture to deliver. He just starts the scene right in the middle of it. And I think this speaks to the fact about why he's such an almost viciously untalented filmmaker. He has no.
He has talent as a cinematographer.
He has. Here's the thing. I mean, he really has a poor sense of storytelling. And I mean, if he could marry strong storytelling skills with those visuals you mentioned, which are striking. I agree. I think he could be a powerful artist, but as a result, he really doesn't have a sense of flow. And I was amazing for an action movie. This movie was really kind of low energy and didn't have a lot of suspense or even momentum, which is a problem when your movie's about two godlike figures fighting each other.
No, I just want to say I love that we each found one thing we didn't like to talk about.
And they were all different.
And they were all different.
Well, since we have so many things that obviously we think went wrong on this movie, I want to take a minute to talk about what could have gone right. I mean, all of us have a passion for these kinds of movies, different ones obviously, but we've all liked movies in this genre. So starting with you.
Yeah, I wanted to go on that. What could have gone right?
Well, I also want to say like what would you have changed if you could go back in time?
If I was like the president of Warner's.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would have rejected the script.
I like that.
Individual Superman movie, a sequel to Man of Steel. Individual Batman movie where he's an older, dejected, more cynical Batman, and an individual Justice League movie. Separate things. Don't try to cram them all into one. That's a totally bad idea. That's what I would do.
I think that's a great.
And Zack Snyder would not direct.
I can get behind that too. Yeah.
But they want to sell tickets, so.
There you go. Alli, what about you?
Well, besides my two previously mentioned bullet points, I think I would have cut out like half of those plot lines. Like, just there were so many different narrative threads happening or themes that they were trying to create that everything kind of got strangled fighting for time, and none of it really resolved itself very well. I mean, I already talked earlier about the idea of Superman as a god and kind of the implications of having him as a character on Earth. Then, people struggle with that. Clark's indecision on if he actually wants to be Superman. Batman's struggle with, should he be Batman again? What's the deal with Superman? Like his coming to a resolve of, yes, I'm going to fight him. Because we never see Batman come to that conclusion. We just see him in the middle of trying to get the kryptonite. No explanation of anything leading up to that. And then Lex's kind of chaotic neutral personality fighting against having Batman and Superman, like the three of them in a world together. Like there are so many strong ideas there, and we've kind of talked around this up till now, but nothing ever got fully resolved in a way that felt satisfying. And it's like if you cut out like half of those plot lines, everything else could have turned out better, at least.
Yeah,
if you gave it room to grow and to develop. But it just threw you in the middle of everything without giving you a build-up or a resolution.
Right.
So do you think it would be... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, so I'm going off what you said. So then the scenes just, as a whole, it just makes it seem like a really elaborate, expensive B movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Going off to what you were saying about the whole Batman training thing. I mean, that could have worked in a different context, but in this context, it was like, what?
Again, things that could have worked but aren't executed properly.
Yeah.
Right.
Is this movie all over?
Well, Max, what about you? What would you change?
I think I'd have to piggyback on with Patrick here. When they first announced their plans to roll this out, it just sounded like we need to catch up to Marvel. Because
Yeah.
Marvel has proven that this can
Not
work
gonna
after
happen.
years of saying it will never work, it can't work. Marvel has made it work. We gotta make this work, and we gotta make it work now before it goes away. And I'm like, the reason it goes away is because it's bad things like this that happen. We needed to.
Yeah.
My big problem is I would have really liked. There's the part where he opens when he gives the flash drive back to Wonder Woman.
Oh,
to
yeah.
find out, and it's no surprise that it's Wonder. That there's no like real mystery. Like who's what? What's going on here? We all know it's Wonder Woman.
I had just thought more of if they make Wonder Woman a World War II movie, everyone's going to compare it to Captain America.
They
and
could
so I
do
think
that
that
too.
was why they
That
did
could be
it.
it too.
But
But
that's
here's the thing,
definitely
like,
going to change.
so many iconic characters were created during World War II,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah,
to
yeah.
fight fight
Right.
in World War II because they were created by Jews. Because there was a lot of anti-Semitic sentiment in the U.S. And if you wanted to get work as a writer or an artist, then you would have to go to like the lowest form of entertainment, which back then was kids' comic books. So that's where they flocked.
Interesting.
And that's how you get Jerry Siegel, Joe Shuster,
Right.
Bob
right.
Kane, Will Eisner, Bob Iger, all these people.
What
It's-
I've learned from seeing various interpretations of Superman is that character is burdened with a lot of labels. He's an alien from another world. He's a farm kid from Kansas. He's a reporter. He is, yes, a Messiah type figure.
Yeah.
And I think if you're gonna take on this character, you have to sort through those labels and say, behind all that, who is he as a person? And like, for instance, Superman Returns, which I think is a masterpiece. I know I'm alone in that, but I love it.
It's flawed, but after having seen these movies, it's so much better.
It's
Well, you see-
better at the time.
See, the thing I love about Superman Returns is that movie makes a very clear choice. It says that Superman is not truly himself unless he's alone, flying above Earth, kind of alone with his thoughts, thinking. Just as Smallville, which I'm also a fan of, said, the real guy is not Kal-El. The real guy is Clark Kent, the guy who grew up on a farm. His experiences made him who he is, and all the other stuff. It's the reporter, the alien. Those are just names. Who he is his experiences. And in Batman vs Superman, as a Man of Steel, I never saw a clear choice about who Superman is. We see him a little bit in costume. We see him a little bit at the Daily Planet. But we never get to his soul. We never get to what drives him. We see, nods towards that. We see that he loves Lois Lane, but we never feel the depth of his passion and his compassion. And as a result, we end up with a very, kind of weak, watered-down character. All right, I got one final question for all of you.
Okay.
All right, let's do this.
I'm going to throw you a curveball. This one is...
Is this one that wasn't in the homework?
What's this one in the homework?
That's what you get for being prepared.
We can talk about the work you did later, though. I mean. So, I want to go back to this idea we were talking about earlier. This idea that, I don't want to say, Warner Brothers is conning us, because we kind of knew what we were getting into. We all saw Man of Steel. But A.O. Scott, in his review, he said something really interesting. He said that the movie really expects from us what the kind of behavior that the innocent bystanders display in the movie. They either worship or they cower, or they just get out of the way. And what his point is this, that this movie wants us to think it's on our side. That it's here to entertain us and give us pleasure, but that it's really not. I mean, his line was, "They fight, you lose." So I want to hear what all of you, starting with you, Alli, think of this idea that does this movie not even really deserve to be seen as even a bad work of art? Is it really just this? Not only a bad movie, but kind of this lower form of cinema that's there for no other reason than to exist and further this this ongoing enterprise.
Well, I mean, that's a great point, because that does, I think, touch on a lot of what we've been talking about, is that it does feel very self-centered in that it's more focused on its own end goal and getting to the cool fight scene and getting to the cool shots than writing out a cohesive story for the audience.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I hadn't read that, but that does make a lot of sense of either you follow it with positivity or you follow it with negativity, but all you can do is just kind of watch it happen around you.
Sure.
That's a good take.
Max?
Sorry, what was the actual question?
Yeah.
Oh no! No, I think you answered it. I think you answered it.
Okay, cool.
What is the specific question being asked here?
The specific. Well, we've agreed that this movie is a bad movie. We all, I think, feel that it's maybe bad on different levels, but like, is it? I guess the question is, is it even worse than that? Is it some lower form of cinema that isn't even existing to tell a story, but is just furthering the ongoing corporate mandate?
Are you asking? Is this a cash grab?
It's an ego project.
Yeah. I think, but I mean, I want to stress that. I mean, like, I think even the loftiest, most artful movies are cash grabs. Because it's all about making money in some way.
It's a business of show.
It is a business, but is this taking that to another level? Is this totally devoid of kind of emotional or artistic merit, or is it not? I mean,
maybe this is again the optimist of the group coming out, is that I don't believe it was made with just the intention of making money.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are people there that want this movie to succeed. I think Zack Snyder is trying really hard. I just don't think he's succeeding, which is sad. It makes me feel bad for him more than I do hate him, because I'm like, I know Zack Snyder wants to make a good movie.
Sure.
He's just not doing it, and I don't know if it's an editing thing. Maybe it's just his terrible ideas. Maybe it's the screenwriter. Maybe it's just, I think it's just a bunch of bad decisions made. I think the only way to stop it, though, is to hear reviewers go, this isn't a good movie.
Yeah.
You might love Superman, and I know you want that hope that Superman's going to be good, but Superman isn't good.
Yeah.
Then you go, I love Superman. I want a good Superman. I'm not going to go see Superman.
Right.
The only way, I don't think that's what the studios did, but if you want the change where they maybe take a little more thought into the property that they decide to handle and present to us, and then maybe you should listen to your reviewers and go, it's not good, maybe I shouldn't see it. I mean, and that's the only way you can stop it. I think I answered the question.
Yeah, well, I mean,
if it is a money-making machine, the only way to defeat the money-making machine is to keep your money in your pocket. And just find someone you trust, and go, hey, I agree with these people, and if they say it's not good, it's probably not good. And then go from there, and don't give them your money, and then maybe one day we will get that good movie.
Mo?
So again, I gotta just clarify. The question is this bad art, or is this product masquerading as art? Is
That's
that
the
what it comes
question.
down to?
Yeah.
And I think this is just bad art. Like, I'm not that cynical about it. For two reasons. The first is just the logical. They spent like $200 million on this.
Yeah.
Like, there's way more money than if this was just a naked cash grab. But also, they're trying. They're very clearly trying to do something with these characters. It's not good ideas, and they're executed poorly, but they're trying. They want to make. I do think they want to make a good superhero movie.
Patrick?
Well, yes, of course I have to agree that it's a bad movie. But I think it's reprehensible how it's so obvious that the studio on a production level had its hand in the creative process that undermined what the artists were trying to do. And it's it's just really reprehensible because, of course, this is Batman, Superman. We're talking about with an already built-in audience.
Right.
The people at the studio level knew that it was going to make money, and they didn't care how they were going to make that money as long as they did. So they were kind of like taking advantage of the built-in audience, and I think that's just bad business. That's unethical, in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah, I think. I mean, I can't remember if I said this in the video earlier, if I was droning about this before the camera started rolling. But what I said was that with Zack Snyder, his movies, as we've said, they are very visually beautiful. And the thing about beautiful visuals is they look really good in the trailer when you cut them together really fast. And every time I see a trailer for a Zack Snyder movie, I go, wow, that looks really cool. Maybe he's actually going to do it this time, and he never does. So I feel like there is kind of a sorry pattern, and I feel like there are smart people over at Warner Brothers. Even Christopher Nolan was an executive producer on this film and a producer on Man of Steel, and I find that really worrisome. He didn't try and put a stop to this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's a head scratcher. But I think I like the way you formulated the question, Mo. Like bad art versus product masquerading as art. And while I fall more in line with the product masquerading as art argument, I do in terms of the passion that you mentioned, Mo. And then Max, what you said about Zack Snyder trying. I think about Zack Snyder as a kid, growing up in Green Bay. He's from Wisconsin.
Right.
Reading
a lot about Zack Snyder.
Yeah, I do.
To defeat the enemy, you must know your.
I feel an affinity when I think of that young guy in Green Bay, discovering superheroes for the first time, and I feel like he's lost a lot of his integrity. I feel like he's kind of a WB stooge these days. But on a certain level, I do feel like even though he's not good at what he does, he may be one of us. A fan, and a certain amount of his enthusiasm, maybe all of it, is very pure. Well, for the Healthy Orange movie reviews, I'm Bennett, Campbell, Ferguson. Happy movie watching, not Batman vs. Superman, and hope to see you next time.